My family threw me out in the rain when I was jobless. 5 years later they showed up on my doorstep and said, "You're alone. No husband, no children. We're taking this house." I didn't say a word, but just made one call. "Well, let's go." My name is Isla, and I'm 32 years old now, but this story starts when I was much younger. I grew up in a suburb of Vermont. My family was middle class. My father, Edric, worked as a manager at an insurance company. My mother, Clara, was an accountant. And there was my older brother, Miles, who was 3 years older than me. Miles was my parents' favorite. That's just how it was. They invested everything in him. They bought him a brand new Chevy when he turned 16. They paid for his college tuition at an expensive private university. They took him on vacations to fancy resorts every summer. Me. I was different. I started working at Target when I was 16 just to save money for college. While Miles was on vacation with our parents, I spent my summers with my grandmother Lucinda. She lived in a neighboring state. Grandma Lucinda was the only person who really cared about me. She taught me to be independent. She told me I needed to build my own life and not depend on anyone. When I was 18, I decided to go to college to study web design. I loved creating things, making websites, designing graphics. Felt right. But when I told my parents at dinner, they hated the idea. "Web design," my father said, looking disgusted. "That's a stupid decision. You should study finance, something practical." "It's a frivolous profession," my mother added. "You'll never make real money doing that." Miles laughed. "You're going to be unemployed and homeless. Good luck with that." They refused to pay for my education. Not a single dollar. So I did it myself. I moved into a rented apartment with 2 roommates. I enrolled at a local community college. I worked 40 hours a week at 2 different jobs. I was exhausted all the time, but I kept going. After 2 years, I transferred to the state university. I worked even harder. I barely slept, but I graduated when I was 22. After graduation, I moved to Ravensshire and got a job as a designer at a digital agency. It wasn't a big job, but it was a start. I shared an apartment with a girl named Mara. We split the rent and got by. I barely talked to my parents during those years. I'd send them cards on holidays, but that was it. The only family member I stayed in touch with was Grandma Lucinda. One time I went home for Christmas. It was a mistake. The whole holiday, all I heard was how successful Miles was. How he had a great job, how he was doing so well, and how stupid I was for choosing web design. I never went back after that. Focused on building my career. I worked hard at the agency, learned new skills, and took on extra projects. Slowly, I built up my experience and reputation. Then when I was 27, everything fell apart. I came to work one morning and found a notice on the door. The agency had gone bankrupt. We were all fired just like that. No warning, no severance pay. Nothing. I was devastated. I'd worked there for 5 years. Around the same time, Mara told me she was moving in with her boyfriend, which meant I'd have to pay the full rent by myself. I couldn't afford it. I started looking for a new job immediately. I sent out hundreds of resumes, went to dozens of interviews. Nothing worked out. 3 months passed. I spent all my savings. I got an eviction notice from my landlord. I was desperate. So I did something I never wanted to do. Called my parents. "Dad, I need help," I said. "I lost my job and I'm about to be evicted. Can you lend me $1,800 just for 1 month's rent? I'll pay you back as soon as I find work." There was a pause. Then my father said, "These are the consequences of your wrong choice of profession." "Dad, please," I said. "We can't help you," he replied. "We're spending money on Miles's MBA education. You made your bed, now lie in it." "Mom," I said. "Are you there?" My mother's voice came through. "Your father's right, Isla. We don't have money to bail you out of your poor decisions." They hung up. I sat there in my empty apartment staring at my phone. I didn't have many options. I packed up my things, just some clothes, my laptop, a few personal items. Everything fit in my car. On a rainy October evening, I drove to my parents' house. I thought maybe if I showed up in person, they'd let me stay for a few weeks while I found a job. I pulled up to their house and got out of my car. The rain was coming down hard. I was already soaked by the time I got to the front door. I rang the doorbell. My father answered. "Isla," he said. He didn't look happy to see me. "Dad, I have nowhere to go," I said. "Can I please stay here for a few weeks? Just until I find a job?" "No," he said. "You need to be responsible for your choices." My mother appeared behind him. "We have a homeowners association meeting tomorrow. This is an inappropriate time." "Mom, I'm begging you," I said. "The answer is no," my father said, and he closed the door. I stood there in the rain, staring at the closed door. My parents had just left me outside in a storm with nowhere to go. I tried calling Grandma Lucinda, but she didn't answer. Called 3 times. No answer. I got back in my car and drove to a Walmart parking lot. That's where I slept that night. In my car in a parking lot. I did that for several days. I slept in my car. I took showers at Planet Fitness using a day pass. I looked for jobs during the day. I filled out applications at coffee shops and restaurants. Anything to make money. One afternoon I was at Starbucks working on my laptop when someone approached my table. "Isla," a voice said. I looked up. It was Delia, a girl I'd gone to high school with. "Delia, hi," I said. She looked at me closely. "Are you okay? You look like you've been through something." I started crying. I couldn't help it. All the stress and fear just came pouring out. Delia sat down. "Tell me what's going on." I told her everything. The job loss, the eviction, my parents turning me away, living in my car. "You're coming home with me," Delia said immediately. "Right now. I have a spare room. You're staying with me." She took me to her house. She fed me. She let me take a real shower. She gave me a bed to sleep in. The next morning, Delia made some calls. Her boyfriend, Rowan, owned a design studio. She got me an interview with him that same day. I met Rowan at his studio. I showed him my portfolio. He hired me on the spot. "You start Monday," he said. "The pay isn't great, but it's something." I started working at Rowan's design studio on Monday. The office was small but modern, with big windows and clean white walls. Rowan had 3 other designers working for him. "You'll start with basic projects," Rowan told me. "Client presentations, social media graphics, simple branding. Once you get comfortable, we'll give you bigger work." The pay wasn't great, but it was enough. I could afford food and gas, and I had a roof over my head at Delia's place. I worked hard. I stayed late. I took on extra projects. I wanted to prove myself. After everything I'd been through, I needed this job to work out. Rowan noticed. After 2 weeks, he called me into his office. "You're good at this," he said. "Really good. I'm giving you a raise and more responsibility." I almost cried with relief. That same week, I got a phone call from a woman named Mabel. She was Grandma Lucinda's neighbor. "Is this Isla?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I'm calling about your grandmother. She's in the hospital with pneumonia. It's very serious. She's been asking for you." My hands started shaking. That's why Grandma hadn't answered when I called from my parents' driveway. "I need to go see her," I told Delia. "I'll drive you," Delia said without hesitation. We drove to the hospital in the neighboring state where Grandma lived. Took 3 hours. When I walked into Grandma's room, I barely recognized her. She looked so small in that hospital bed, hooked up to machines and IVs. But when she saw me, her face lit up. "Isla, my sweetheart." I sat beside her bed and took her hand. "I'm here, Grandma. I tried to call you back," she said weakly, "but I got sick so fast." "Don't worry about that," I said. "I'm here now." Delia went back to Ravensshire after the first day, but I stayed. I took time off work. Rowan understood. I spent every day with Grandma. We talked about everything. She told me stories about my father when he was young, before he became so cold. She told me about my grandfather who died before I was born. She told me how proud she was of me. On the 3rd day, Grandma asked me to open the drawer beside her bed. There's an envelope in there, she said. Take it. I pulled out a thick envelope. Inside were keys and legal documents. That's for my cottage, Grandma said. The deed, the keys, everything. And there's information about my savings account. It's all yours, Isla. Grandma, no, I said. You're going to get better. She smiled sadly. We both know that's not true. I want you to have it. You deserve a real home. Build the life you want there. I love you, I said, crying. I love you too, sweetheart, she whispered. More than you'll ever know. She died that night peacefully while I was holding her hand. The funeral was 2 days later. My parents came. So did Miles. They sat in the front row looking bored and annoyed. After the funeral, Grandma's lawyer held a reading of the will. After the funeral, Grandma's lawyer held a reading of the will at his office. Everyone gathered in a small conference room. The lawyer opened the document and began reading. To my granddaughter Isla, I leave my cottage, all furnishings, and my savings account, which currently contains approximately $46,000. The room went silent. Then my father stood up. His face was red. This is unacceptable, he said. That property should go to us, not her. Lucinda was my mother, my mother said loudly. I'm her daughter. The house should be mine by right. The will is legally binding, the lawyer said calmly. She manipulated an old woman, my father snapped, pointing at me. She poisoned her against us. I visited her, I said quietly. That's all I did. You never came to see her. Miles stood up too. This isn't fair. We need that money more than you do. The will stands, the lawyer said firmly. This meeting is over. My family stormed out, slamming the door behind them. I moved into Grandma's cottage 2 weeks later. It was old and needed a lot of work, but it was mine. I started renovating immediately. I painted every room, choosing colors Grandma would have loved. I fixed the plumbing and electrical issues. I refinished the hardwood floors. I restored her garden in the backyard, planting the flowers she'd always loved. Rowan let me work remotely, which was perfect. I set up a workspace in the spare bedroom and continued doing projects for his studio. But I also started taking on my own freelance clients. I'd work for Rowan during the day, then do my own projects at night. One of my first clients was Ronan Avery, the owner of a local bookstore. We met when I went in to buy some books. We started talking about design and he hired me to rebrand his store. After that, more clients came. Word spread. My business grew. A year after moving into the cottage, I officially founded North Point Creative, my own design studio. I specialized in branding for small businesses. I worked constantly, but I loved it. This was my dream. 5 years passed. The cottage was completely renovated now. Every room was beautiful. I'd converted Grandma's old garage into a professional office space. I'd hired 3 employees. We had regular clients and steady income. Ronan and I had become close over those years. What started as a professional relationship became a friendship and then something more. We'd been dating for about a year now. I was happy, really genuinely happy. I had a home I loved, a business I'd built myself, and people who cared about me. 5 years later, I got a message from Miles. We hadn't talked in all that time. Hey Isla, the message read. I heard you're doing really well with your business. Like to reconnect. We're family. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't trust him, but I was curious about why he was reaching out now. Called him back. Miles, what do you want? Yes. I just want to talk, he said. His voice was friendly. Too friendly. I've been thinking about family lately, about how important it is. I'd like to visit you, see your place. Something felt off, but I agreed. Fine. One visit. Saturday afternoon. A few hours, that's it. Great, Miles said. I'll bring Mom and Dad too. Before I could say no, he hung up. The next day my mother called. Isla, sweetheart, she said, her voice sugary sweet. Miles told me we're coming to visit. I'm so excited to see what you've done with your grandmother's cottage. It's my cottage now, I said. Of course, my mother said quickly. I just meant it's wonderful that you fixed it up. Family is so important, don't you think? I'll see you Saturday, I said and hung up. Saturday came. My parents and Miles arrived in the afternoon. They walked through my cottage slowly, looking at everything. The renovated kitchen, the restored hardwood floors, the garden, the converted garage office. We sat down for lunch in the dining room. I'd made sandwiches and salad. We made small talk for about 20 minutes. Then my father got to the real point. Isla, this house is too big for one person, he said. Don't you think it's wasteful? I like having space, I said. What your father means, my mother said, is that we think we should move in with you. I put down my sandwich. What? We're family, Miles said. And you have all this room. No, I said immediately. Just hear us out, my father said. Miles could take over your office in the garage, run his business from there. Your mother and I would take the master bedroom. You could use one of the smaller rooms. Are you insane? Said. This is my house. We're family, my mother repeated. Family helps each other. Like you helped me when I was living in my car, said. My voice was getting louder. Like you helped me when I called begging for $1,800. And you hung up on me? That was different, my father said. How? I demanded. We had our reasons, my mother said. I stood up. Get out of my house. Now. You're making a huge mistake, my father said, his face reddening. Out, I said. Miles stood up too. You're going to regret this. I doubt that, I said. They left, but I could tell from the look on my father's face that this wasn't over. 3 weeks later, Ronan and I left for a design conference in Chicago. It was a 3-day event about branding and digital marketing. We'd been looking forward to it for months. We checked into our hotel and attended the first day of sessions. Everything was going well. On the second day, around noon, I got a text from Mabel, Grandma's old neighbor. Isla, there are people at your house. I saw them carrying things inside. Just wanted you to know. My stomach dropped. I immediately opened the Ring app on my phone and checked my security cameras. The footage showed my father at my back door. He had tools in his hands. He was picking the lock. Then the camera showed my parents and Miles carrying boxes and suitcases into my house. They were breaking in. Called Miles immediately. My hands were shaking. What the hell are you doing? I said when he answered. We're moving in, Miles said calmly. This is a family home. We have a right to be here. You broke into my house, I said. We didn't break in, he replied. We're family. And if you try to stop us, we'll challenge Grandma's will in court. We'll prove she wasn't mentally competent when she wrote it. You're lying, I said. Try us, Miles said. This house should have been ours from the beginning. We're just taking what's rightfully ours. He hung up. I looked at Ronan. We need to go home right now. We checked out of the hotel, got in the car and drove straight back. Took 4 hours. I was furious the entire drive. When we pulled up to the cottage, I saw my parents' car and Miles's car in the driveway. They were really there. I walked inside. My family had completely taken over. They'd moved my furniture around. They'd hung their own photos on the walls. My father's clothes were in my closet. My mother's toiletries were in my bathroom. What are you doing here? My father said when he saw me. You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow. Get out of my house, I said. No, my father said, crossing his arms. You don't even have a real family. No husband, no children. You're alone. We're taking this house. We need it more than you do. This is my house, I said. Grandma left it to me. We'll see about that, my mother said. We're not going anywhere. Pulled out my phone. Fine. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, my father said. We'll tell them we're family and you invited us. I have security footage of you picking my lock, I said. That's breaking and entering. My father's face went pale. I dialed 911. I need to report a break-in. My family broke into my house and they're refusing to leave. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers came to the door. I showed them the security footage on my phone. It clearly showed my father picking the lock and all of them entering without permission. You have 30 minutes to pack your things and leave, one officer told my family. If you're not gone by then, you'll be arrested. My mother started crying. We have nowhere to go. That's not my problem, I said. My family scrambled to gather their things. They threw clothes into suitcases, grabbed their boxes. They were furious, but they left. After they were gone, the police helped me file a formal report. I gave them all the security footage. I also got a temporary restraining order against all 3 of them. The police told me they'd investigate further and that my family would likely face charges for breaking and entering. The investigation moved quickly. During their search of my family's phones, they found a WhatsApp group chat called Family Plan. It included my parents and Miles. The detective showed me the messages. They'd been planning the break-in for weeks. They discussed which rooms they'd take, how they'd get in, what they'd say if I tried to stop them. One message from my father said, "She's alone and weak. She'll give in eventually." Another from Miles said, "If she fights us, we'll threaten to contest the will. She'll back down." My mother had written, "We deserve that house more than she does." Reading those messages hurt, but it also made me angry. They'd planned everything. This wasn't desperation. It was calculated. The district attorney charged my father and Miles with breaking and entering. My mother wasn't charged because the footage showed she entered after the door was already unlocked. 3 weeks later there was a court hearing. My father and Miles both took plea deals. They pleaded guilty and received suspended sentences. No jail time but probation for a year. The judge also extended my restraining order. My family couldn't contact me or come within 500 feet of my property for 2 years. After the hearing, I went home feeling exhausted but relieved. It was over. A week later I got a letter in the mail. It was from my mother, a handwritten letter, several pages long. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something made me open it. The letter was an apology, a real one. My mother wrote about how she and my father had failed as parents, how they'd favored Miles and neglected me, how they'd been so focused on what they thought success looked like that they'd pushed away their own daughter. She wrote about how they'd lost everything. My father had been fired from his insurance company for violations. Miles had lost all his savings in bad cryptocurrency investments. They'd lost their house and were living in a small apartment. She wrote that she understood why I didn't want them in my life, that she didn't blame me, that she was sorry. The letter ended with, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally see how wrong we were. I hope you have a happy life, Isla. You deserve it." I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat down and wrote a short response. "I acknowledge your apology. I appreciate that you finally see what you did wrong, but I'm not ready to have you in my life. Maybe I never will be. I need to move forward without you. I hope you understand." I mailed the letter and didn't hear back. That was fine with me. Life moved on. My business continued to grow. I hired another employee. We took on bigger clients. North Point Creative was becoming known in the area. Ronan and I grew closer. He was kind and supportive. He believed in me. He never made me feel small or stupid. He was everything my family had never been. One evening, about a year after the break-in, Ronan and I were having dinner in Grandma's garden. I'd set up a table under the big oak tree. The sun was setting and everything looked beautiful. Ronan got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. "Isla," he said, "you're the strongest, most incredible person I've ever met. Will you marry me?" I started crying. "Yes, of course." We got married 6 months later. It was a small ceremony in the garden with close friends. No family. Just the people who truly cared about us. It was perfect. Through mutual friends, I heard updates about my family occasionally. My father had started drinking heavily after everything that happened. He and my mother were barely speaking. Miles had moved to Florida to try to start over. He was working some kind of sales job trying to rebuild his life. My mother had filed for divorce from my father. She was trying to start fresh on her own. I felt nothing when I heard these updates. No sadness, no guilt. They'd made their choices. These were the consequences. My life was good now. Really good. North Point Creative was thriving. Ronan and I were happy. We'd made the cottage into a real home. And I was pregnant. 3 months along. We'd found out a few weeks ago. I thought about Grandma Lucinda sometimes. About how she'd believed in me when nobody else did. About how she'd given me the foundation to build this life. I wished she could see me now. See how everything had turned out. I think she'd be proud. One Sunday afternoon, I was working in the garden. Ronan was inside making lunch. I was planting new flowers in the beds Grandma had loved so much. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Isla. It was my mother's voice. The restraining order expired last month, she said softly. I just wanted to call and say I'm happy for you. I heard you got married, and that you're expecting a baby. I didn't say anything. I'm not asking to be part of your life, she continued. I know I don't have that right. I just wanted you to know that I'm proud of you. You built something beautiful from nothing. You're going to be a wonderful mother. Thank you, I said quietly. That's all I wanted to say, she said. Take care of yourself, Isla. She hung up. I stood there in the garden holding my phone. Part of me felt sad. Sad for what could have been if my parents had been different people. But mostly I felt grateful. Grateful for the life I'd built. Grateful for Ronan. Grateful for the baby growing inside me. Grateful for Grandma Lucinda, who'd given me the chance to create this life. I put my phone away and went back to planting flowers. This was my life now. My home. My family. My future. Everything I'd worked for. Everything I deserved. And I was happy.